Welcome. Today we're joined by Anya Astavadzaturyan Turcotte, an author, lecturer, and human rights advocate. Anya herself was born in Baku and left as a refugee due to anti-Armenian attacks. She has also been tirelessly campaigning for the rights of the inhabitants of Nagorno-Karabakh. Anya, thank you very much for your time.
Of course.
I want to start by asking you this. You were there in the late 80s in Azerbaijan and left as a refugee, first to Armenia, and then you went to the United States. You even wrote a book about your experience entitled Nowhere, A Story of Exile. Can you tell us a bit about your experience as a refugee? And many are saying that the events of the late 80s and the events of today, rather, are hearkening back to the events of the late 80s.
Yes, absolutely. And I would even go further to say that the events of the 80s and 90s are very much connected to the events of the Armenian genocide. So it's all a string of anti-Armenianism and an attempt to exterminate us. So yes, we left when I was 11 and a half years old at the end of 89. We thought we were going to come back. So, you know, we didn't take a lot with us. We thought it would all, you know, kind of go away because the Soviet authorities would never allow anything like that to happen, but that was not the case. My family lived in Yerevan for about 3 years as refugees during the blockade and the war that started soon after we left. And there's nothing pleasant about that experience. So I don't know if you have specific questions, but it really shaped who I am and who, you know, everyone that left with us, who they are today. Many of the refugees, you know, spread all over the Soviet republics, but also went to the United States and Western Europe.
Well, to be specific on that, you have worked intensively with regards to Armenian refugees coming from Azerbaijan. Do you see a risk of another major exodus, and what lessons can be learnt from the 80s and 90s with regards to this?
Since I published my book, and the book was really my diaries that I kept as a child that I published soon after I had my children, the reason I published it was because the conflict was ongoing, and still, you know, 20 plus some years after it happened. And what I realized when I started advocating was that people, especially people in a diaspora, didn't really realize that the attempt to get rid of the Armenian population of Azerbaijan had nothing to do with, you know, territorial integrity. It was completely disconnected, you know, from Karabakh. In a sense, we were just the peaceful citizens of Azerbaijan, and the reaction to the momentum that was building in Karabakh, you know, to exterminate us in Azerbaijan was connected to you know, an attempt to get rid of Armenians from that population. So when we talk about territorial integrity, it means very little to me. It's Azerbaijan doesn't need Karabakh. Azerbaijan just needs Karabakh without Armenians. And that's why I'm very, very vocal about it. And I feel like I've said this for so long, and finally people are connecting the dots.
Well, you were a key figure in getting the state of Maine in the United States to recognize the independence of Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has recently stated that international recognition of Artsakh's independence may be essential now in order to protect its inhabitants. Do you think recognition is essential?
Absolutely. Recognition is essential. But I think before we even go there, I think recognition by Armenia of Nagorno-Karabakh is essential. That would be the most logical step. And let's see what is to follow. But I think, you know, cessation of hostilities needs to stop. And Karabakh needs to be at the negotiation table. We have said this for decades, that we were, you know, Artsakh was one of the 3 signatories to the agreement. and it has been excluded completely by the Aliyev regime since he came to power after his father passed away. So that to me is important. And then, the recognition is to follow.
Well, we've been following your advocacy work in the United States, and you have been lobbying, and many members of Congress have condemned the actions of Azerbaijan and Turkey. What are you doing with regards to this, the politics and members of Congress, etc., in the US, and how would you assess the mood on the Hill with regards to the 2020 conflict, and how do you see the US's position developing?
There's so many components to this, and I will just start with what I've been doing along with many different organizations, Armenian organizations that have been advocating for Artsakh's independence for the last, several decades. But we do contact our congressmen often, aside from whenever there are skirmishes on the, random shootings, before this war broke out, during the April War, before that. And we meet with them. I go down to Washington, D.C. often to meet with various members of Congress, not just the ones that represent Maine. I have advocated for Artsakh at the state level as well, and especially with the recognition of Artsakh in Maine. The mood is from what I'm hearing, there's no leadership. There's no leadership at this point. The United States has issued a statement along with France and Russia, but it's to me it's very cookie cutter and vague. We really need something more definitive. I am meeting with Susan Collins in the next few days. She's a senator from Maine, and I will be obviously not in person due to COVID, but we will be meeting by a Skype session, and hopefully there are some results that are coming. She's a key figure in the Senate, and hopefully there's some movement. And we are waiting for actions from the White House, but it's right before the election. I really don't think the focus is on Artsakh.
Well, you mentioned leadership in the United States. Do you think a Biden presidency could turn the tables in a way?
I think the Biden presidency would absolutely turn the table, at least cease the hostilities and put pressure on Turkey, and it seems like France and Germany are really the leaders of the free world right now, because there's this vacuum in Washington with regards to Turkey. I think that President Trump has personal interests in Turkey, so I have absolutely no faith or trust in that administration when it comes to Karabakh and many other issues.
You have been campaigning around the world for the inhabitants of Nagorno-Karabakh, and you did warn people consistently about the possibility of what is happening now, and about the intent of Turkey and Azerbaijan. So how do you feel now that you're seeing what's going on in 2020?
I obviously am not happy that I was, right. But, from the Armenian organizations that told me that Artsakh is really not a priority, that Armenian genocide, the recognition is a priority, that kind of behavior from the Armenian community is confusing to me, because those two issues are connected, and the people on the ground would be, victims of genocide if we don't step up and support them. I really am, after 5 days of no sleep, I am incredibly thankful that the Armenian community is so strong now and together, and finally realizing that there is this big attempt, and it's not just Karabakh, but it's really an attempt to attack us as a people. And I really hope that the Armenians of diaspora go visit Artsakh. They don't complain about the 6-hour drive, that when we can come back to Artsakh and visit, that they connect to the people who are just amazing. And this is why I'm doing it, because when I had my kids, I saw their childhood, and the childhood that the kids of Artsakh deserve is being ignored across the world. So it's obviously very emotional for me, but I am thankful that people are finally paying attention. The world leaders are paying attention, and the community, came together. The fundraising that we're doing is incredible, including my own working to supply medical supplies to the troops. And I did build 2 bomb shelters in Tavush with the fundraising that I did. So people are engaged. So I'm thankful.
Well, you spoke about your fundraiser and those efforts you've made. If you could speak a bit more on that, and also as a person in the diaspora, there is that distance that has left many Armenians in the diaspora rather disheartened that they are so far away from what's going on. What would your message be to those diasporans?
The message to the diasporans about the distance, internet makes it so much easier, right? So connecting to the right sources of information, which I commend CivilNet for providing that connection to the diaspora members, not engaging in any skirmishes on the internet with the trolls that are inundating my official Facebook page, and really listening to what is needed. I think that there's this instant reaction to collect clothes and collect things and send, but listen to what is needed, because we just really need to have that, surgical precision and help right now, because it's vital. And but they can make a difference. Even if they can't donate, they can call their congressman. It doesn't take that long, and it's not that scary. I've been there before I became an advocate for Artsakh. I didn't know if they would listen to me, but they do listen, especially if you call in large numbers. Pick up the phone. ANCA has a great resource, the points that you should be making when asking to speak to your congressman. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to come together, put aside our differences. I know that we're very good at being very opinionated and individualistic, but when it comes to Azerbaijan and Turkey, they really don't care where we come from, what dialect we speak, what church we go to. They just want to kill us for being Armenian. So it's time to realize that.
Anya, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and good luck to you.
Thanks
for reporting on this.
We really appreciate the work you do.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And thank you for joining us on CivilNet.